Hello and welcome to the Leadership Think Tank. And so glad to have you with me today. We're going to dive into another lesson. This one's titled Challenging the Status Quo. Challenging the Status Quo. Here's a question for us to consider this morning, is what would happen if we never questioned the way things were?
You'd never grow.
You'd never
We
grow.
live our lives gullible, gullible, gullible.
Right. So the status quo, right, is the current state of things. It's the way things are now. The 6 words of a dying church. I'm trying
Yes.
to count the right words, but we've always done it that way. We've always done it this way, right? Why change it? Keep everything the status quo. So for us leaders, we don't settle for what is, we press toward to what could be. Why challenging the status quo matters is that growth never happens in comfort zone. We talked
Right.
about that last week. Growth never happens in the comfort zone. There's the rubber band requires tension, right? We need to go through things as difficult as it may be to grow. Where there's no pressure, there's no growth.
Right.
So nothing improves until someone questions the norm. So this little girl goes up to her mom and says, "Mom, why do you always break the spaghetti noodles before putting them in the pan?" She goes, "I don't know. Go and ask your grandma." And she goes, asks her grandma, "Grandma, why does mommy always break the noodles before putting them in the pan?" She says, "I don't know why your mother does it, but the reason I did it was because the pan was too small."
Mhm.
Right? And so
Yep.
sometimes we're doing things because we saw this is the way it's done. And so we've continued to do that. I think I recently shared the story about the monkeys, right? The ones that were all in a room and they had bananas at the top of a pole. The monkey would try to go up to grab the bananas, but those in that controlled environment would hose down the monkey so the monkey couldn't get it. And after a while, they started replacing monkeys, pulling one out, putting a new one in. When the new one went in, the other monkeys would begin to pull that monkey down. And after a while, the whole room was filled with monkeys that had never been hosed down, but they've all stopped each other from reaching the goal of attaining those bananas.
Yeah.
And so that's what it's like for a lot of us in society, is we've just gone with the flow. This is what they said we should do. This is what we do. How many doctors give advice to patients based on things that they've just heard passed down, rather than actually taking the time to really evaluate a thing before giving a diagnosis? Yeah, finding out for themselves. So the danger of good enough, right, is this: good enough today becomes not enough tomorrow.
Right.
Good enough today means, or becomes, not enough tomorrow. So there's a biblical foundation here based on that from Philippians chapter 3. Paul talks about pressing toward the mark, right? He refused to let his past define him. He refused to let his present limit him. And he embraced the forward movement, right? A press towards the mark, the high calling of God in Christ Jesus. So the idea is contentment is spiritual, but complacency is not. God's called us for a greater purpose. He's called us to believe that he is the God of the impossible. I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength, right? We're more than conquerors. Well, are we living like more than conquerors? Are we living like that? Are we challenging the status quo? So what happens when leaders challenge the status quo? Well, when the status quo is challenged, improvement is discovered, right? You find a new thing. We've always heard, at least I have growing up, why are you trying to reinvent the wheel? I don't know if you've ever heard that, to reinvent the wheel, meaning that the wheel is already made. Why attempt to reinvent it? But why not try to reinvent the wheel? Maybe you'll find out there's something better, which we have seen.
Yeah.
There's quite a very fantastic creations that are out there that people have made. Imagine if someone said, well, the wagon is all we need. We have the horses, we have the wagon, that's all we need. But someone had to say, you know what? There's got to be more. So they challenge the status quo and develop an automobile.
Mm-hmm.
And then after the automobile was designed, someone said there's got to be a better automobile.
Mm-hmm.
And they challenged the status quo and so forth and so on. The same with rockets and things of that nature. So even on that tip with rockets, for years, they would blast off and just that rocket booster that took off would just fall into the water and just be wasted. Well, someone thought there's got to be a better way. And so now they've created a system where the booster takes off, and guess what? It comes back down and lands on the landing pad, meaning they get to use that.
Yeah, that's amazing how it does that.
Absolutely. So someone challenged the status quo. All right. Another practical outcome is innovation is inspired. New ideas surface, like I said. When we go back and look at things and challenge the status quo, why is it the way that it is? We can often find even a better way. People are empowered when the status quo is challenged. Teams start thinking creatively. I was watching the movie, I think it's called Jobs, about Steve Jobs. And he was out of the company for a while. And when he came back, he challenged his team. He said, you know what? Scrap whatever you're doing right now. And for the rest of the day, create something. He says, I don't care what it is, just anything, just create something. Right? And so they went to work to create something, to think outside of the box. And that's what brings innovation, is when we think outside the box, when we challenge the status quo. And next is potential is unlocked when we challenge the status quo. Growth accelerates when people are empowered to create, to innovate, to reimagine. It promotes growth. Right? And then lastly is potential is unlocked. Purpose becomes clearer and vision sharpens. Purpose becomes clearer and vision sharpens. So the cost of not challenging the status quo is this: teams stagnate, organizations plateau, leaders lose influence, opportunities pass by, comfort becomes the cage. Can you imagine? But it happens all the time. All the time. Staying the same feels safe.
Yeah.
What is it? If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Mm-hmm.
All these words that keep us limited. It keeps us holding back, right? So staying the same feels safe until you realize it's holding you back.
Mm-hmm.
So there's practical ways to challenge the status quo. One is to provide action steps, right? Ask better questions. Why do we do it this way?
Mm-hmm.
Chances are, if you were to ask a instructor or a business owner or even a mother in the kitchen, why do we do it this way? chances are it'll be most like that story I shared with you just a moment ago about the spaghetti noodles. And they can't give an answer. I don't know why we do it this way. It's just I've been going with the flow. It works. If it's not broke, don't fix it, right?
Mm-hmm.
We need to assess our results honestly, right? By asking, why do we do it this way? And assess our results. We need to invite outside perspectives. Hey, what do you think about this? Have you ever thought about this? Experiment with small changes. What if we tweaked this and did this? And I'm talking, this can be about anything. The way our culture is going in our businesses or in our communities, the tools that we use. I've seen some videos lately of electricians, and they use the one tool to strip the coating off the wire. Right?
Mm-hmm.
They've come out with some kind of new tool that can strip all of the wires simultaneously. Someone took the time to reinvent it, right? And then it gives our team permission to think differently. And then we get to celebrate improvement, not just consistency. So empowering people to think outside the box brings creativity and perhaps longevity. We talked about also recently about when COVID happened, companies had to reinvent themselves or they were going to shut down for a while, making $0.
Yeah.
So what did many of them do? They took the advantage of saying, okay, what do we need? What is the need right now? How can we make a difference with what we have? And there lies my acronym, which is SUI, S-U-I, S-U-I, like chop suey minus the chop, right? SUI, start where you are, use what you have, and improve the process. Start where you are, use what you have, and improve the process. This helps us to get started, and as we get moving in that direction, we see, hey, there's a better way to do this. Or now, because we got things started, we have a little bit of cash flow. We can now turn those funds back into the business again, and now equip ourselves with the better tools to do it better. So at that point, we start where we are, we use what we have, and we improve the process. And repeat, start where you are, use what you have, and improve the process. So here's a call to action for us. Evaluate one area in your life or your leadership or your organization where you have settled. Can you share with me an area that you've settled in, that you've noticed that you've settled? We have laws built in place, like if you work so many hours, then that becomes overtime, right? If you've worked over 40 hours, whatever. But who determined this, right? I think that a person like Elon Musk, for instance, he has, I don't know if the guy owns a clock.
No,
Right?
he must sleep about 15 minutes a day.
Yeah, he just sleeps when he needs to, and then gets back at it, and even sleeps on the shop floor, right? So, which is not healthy, obviously, but somehow he's figured out to do it. But he's pushed past the status quo. And, so why do we do things the way we do them? This whole debate lately about daylight savings time. It served a purpose at one time. I'm not sure if it's serving a purpose in these days. And so it keeps getting kicked down the road in Congress or whoever decides all that, of whether to do away with it or not. We just did away with pennies. It doesn't make sense. Or to spend 4 cents to make 1 cent, right? It doesn't make sense, but someone challenged the status quo. We can't keep doing this. We have to change the way we do things. All right, so here's another question for you. What needs to be challenged? What needs to be changed? Can you think of something, whether in your own life or in society, that just needs to be challenged at the very least, or even changed?
I want to say the hate in this country from one side to the other, but I don't know how you change it. That's something internal to all individuals. It's terrible.
Yeah. Yep.
It's good. So that needs to be challenged and changed. And chances are, Keith, if you were to ask the person who is dealing with anger, why are you angry at this person? They probably can't give a legitimate answer.
Yes, I agree.
That's true.
But how often are they asked?
Right.
Right? And then if we're honest with ourselves, we'll say, you know what? I don't have an answer. I don't know why this person, maybe it's the sound of their voice. Maybe that's what irritates me. Maybe I don't hate them at all. I just can't stand their voice. Or it's the things that someone says. It's contrary to the way I believe, so I hate you because you're saying this stuff, even though there's nothing wrong with you saying this stuff. It's just that it bothers me. Again, I think if we challenge people in a way to ask them, why are you full of bitterness or hatred because of this? Why are you feeling or sensing fear? Right? What is that thing? And cause a person to think down in themselves and go, you know what? I don't have an answer for that. Going back to my story about the mother with the spaghetti noodles, you know what? Go and ask your grandma. Maybe she knows. Same thing with this whole idea of racism handed down from generation to generation. Why do you have a problem with the color of somebody's skin? I don't know. It was just, that's what was told to me my whole life.
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with anybody.
Right. Amen.
But my parents did, or my grandparents did. So that was the status quo, right?
Yeah.
So, wow, that's something to think about, isn't it? And ask this: tomorrow gets better when you refuse to settle for today. Leaders who challenge the status quo don't just change routines, they change results. They change people. They change futures. So here's the challenge for us today: don't settle. So don't settle, challenge the status quo, and lead the way forward. Is there something else that you can recall that needs to be challenged? What else needs to be challenged or even changed?
I have in my own self, in my own life, challenged the diagnosis is like I was told over 20 years ago I would never be out of a wheelchair. You've never seen me in a wheelchair, have you, Pastor?
No.
But the doctors told me I would never get out of a wheelchair. They gave up on me. I didn't though, and God brought me out of the wheelchair, but I was desperate. That was the period of time I was watching Sid Roth 24/7,
Oh.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't settle. That was the status quo from the doctor's perspective, and I didn't settle. And I haven't been in a wheelchair and probably it's been about 15 years, So yeah. So I don't always listen to what the doctors say. I challenge what they say sometimes. Yeah.
I think you have to because I'm going through this doctor thing with my father-in-law, and they want him to run test after test after test. The guy's 90 some years old. Give it a rest.
Yeah.
They did. It's a business. I mean, if you find a good doctor, that's great.
Mm-hmm.
I just think there's so many doctors out there that are just let's run these tests. Let's get that bill up there.
Yeah.
I just got an attitude right now with those guys.
I've had to challenge my attitude with them too myself.
There's a cost at staying the same. And we see a lot of churches that have just closed their doors because we've always done it this way, right? And so because of that, the folks in the church have just grown old, and then they die off, and there's no new blood in the church because this is the way we've always done it. This is the way we're always going to do it. And if that's the case, then so be it. And then you're just going to live with your community until you die off. And if you don't care, well, that's fine. Go with it like that. But if you want the church to grow, if you want to be a part of the innovation, a part of the legacy of that ministry or that organization, be a part of the solution rather than the problem. I've coached a ministry. They had folks on the board of that ministry that felt like we've always done it this way, so we're going to keep doing it this way. God bless you. Good luck with that. And we just moved on. We parted ways, and they continued doing things the way they've always done it, getting the same results, which is the definition of insanity, right? Mm-hmm. Doing the same things, expecting different results. Why can't people just do it the way they've always done it? Well, we have different perspectives, different worldviews. Mm-hmm. Our children are growing up in a era where they've not been exposed to cassette tapes and VHS tapes and a life without cell phones,
right?
Or smartphones, right? They've not experienced those things. And for some things that you try to explain to people, it's like trying to explain colors to a blind person. They've not experienced it. They've not seen it. I've seen that same thing happen with me in my experience in Africa. I saw so much, and I was trying to articulate to those in my circle what I experienced. And after about 5-10 minutes, they're like, okay, can we change the topic? Because I can't relate with what you're saying. I haven't seen that. I don't know what you're trying to describe to me. And so it even felt kind of lonely for me a little bit because I wasn't able to share, some of the things that I've seen, even to decompress and to, get that burden off of me because my life was just so impacted by the poverty and the beauty in everything that I saw as well. It was so powerful, but trying to describe that to someone who hasn't seen it, who hasn't experienced it, we've got to be changing with the time. One thing that never changes is God's word.
True.
So we need to remember that although society changes and things shift, the word of God still remains true. It will be as effective today as it was 100 years ago and 1,000 years from now. But the main idea here that we're talking about today is that we want to challenge the status quo. Why do we do things the way we do it? For growth, it always begins with a question, which is there a better way? Is there a better way? Is there another way? Well, in wrapping up here, listen to this. True leadership requires courage, right? Courage to disrupt comfort, to confront old patterns, and to challenge the familiar. Challenging the status quo requires vision to see beyond what is and faith to pursue what will be. All right, and leaders who challenge the status quo don't just change systems, they change futures. Mm. That's a powerful thought, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I hope this has been good for us today.
Yes.
I got a whole page of notes.
All right. Yeah. What is it? I got one right now. Don't
Well,
just go with the flow. Challenge the status quo.
Yeah.
yes. Yes.
I got it.
That's good.